All right. Hello, David. How is it going? What's up, man?
Hi, Hayden. Yeah, doing good. It's good to be back. It's a pleasure. It's fun.
Yeah, I'm very grateful that you found time for this again because I think the last talk was very beneficial, even to me and even to the people who listened to it for 2.5 hours or however long it is. And today's
hmm
talk, I really wanted to bring you on so that you can talk about open source development because you're a developer yourself. And I think it's much more beneficial if a developer talks about giving away their own work rather than me preaching, hey, you should give away your work. So before we jump into the core of the debate, would you be able to talk about a bit yourself about and a bit about what you do with your projects and business?
Sure. Yeah, it was fun having the last one and also seeing the reactions. It was fun just seeing how people enjoyed it, and I'm thankful that so many listened to it. Regarding our business or where I work, I'm a co-founder of a company called Safium, and our focus is privacy on the internet. So we have three products. I'll just give a short overview, and then you can dig into deeper if you want to. But we have three products. One is the Portmaster, which is an application firewall. So every connection that goes out of your computer, he intercepts and decides whether this is a good connection or not. It's similar to Little Snitch, and it prevents a lot of applications tracking your behavior. Like, as an example, Microsoft Word, if you don't use the backup feature, it never has to touch the internet or connect to the internet. And Portmaster does just that. Then one problem for a lot of the people is you have to decide a lot. So an application firewall, every connection that gets out and he doesn't know what to do, he asks the user. And our goal is that an everyday Joe can use the product, just like my mom. So we are also building a web platform where experts collect, we crowdsource application intelligence and web intelligence, and that is called Stamp.
What is
So
application intelligence? Sorry.
application intelligence, well, it's like take Steam, for example. Like, does Steam need to connect to the internet? That's the question. If the what privileges does an app need to function? And that is something else than just describing a website and saying this website is good and this website is bad. Because an app, like the first question, does it need the internet at all? Does it need peer-to-peer connections? And how does it function? And yeah, I hope that is a bit more descriptive.
Okay. I think it is. Well, it is for me, so I hope it will be descriptive enough for other people as well. Yeah,
hmm
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So that is the platform that hopefully helps the mass, because you can then just integrate the stamp data to the port master, and then you're free to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then our third product, it's called Gate 17. It protects your data on transit. So whenever you connect to the internet to a server, like let's say it's a server in Europe and you're placed in America, it has to go through a lot of data centers, and every data center can listen in, depending, yeah, like AT&T and T-Mobile, they are known for collecting a lot of metadata.
Mm-hmm.
And Gate 17 encrypts your connection before leaving the computer, and then it goes through our network and exits our network at the closest possible exit node for the server you want to visit. And it does this with every connection. So by that, you protect your metadata and appear to be everywhere at once.
Okay, so it's similar to overlay networks like Tor in some concept, or maybe even a VPN.
There are crucial differences. Like a VPN, just delegates the problem. You have like it's you don't have to worry about your location anymore, but you're still only connected to one server, and all your activity runs through that server and still is in the open. Like if you're in Europe and you have a VPN in America, and then you connect to Europe, it's going to go from Europe to America to Europe, and the line from America to Europe is open. So there again, everybody can listen in or intercept, and it's like the technology is more like Tor in the sense that it's unencrypted and it has several exit nodes. But even there are differences because we calculate the route for every connection on its own. So with Tor, you usually have one path and then it goes through that path.
Yeah.
As far as I understand it, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Gate 17 was the last one, or there's
yeah.
okay.
It's like we're trying to sell the software bundle that gives you a good overall privacy and security. Like the Portmaster, it is a suite which works together. So the Portmaster you download and integrated in it is the Gate 17, which you have to activate and pay for, but it's the same software. And the Portmaster gets the data from Stamp to make it easier to use. So it's like all in one, but it's still separate and it's kind of complex, but I hope I understand. I explain it easy enough for you to understand.
Yes, so people who are worried about their privacy, they can just choose to install Portmaster, not Gate 17.
Yeah, it comes together.
Okay.
It's one like, but
Okay.
the products we have to differentiate them because otherwise you have a name for an app which does a lot of things, and now it's easier to like grasp one feature and grasp the other feature by
Okay.
giving them two separate names.
Okay. So where is this available from? This Portmaster and Gate 17. Is it just do people go to one place, or is it going to be available in app repositories?
Mm-hmm. Well, we're currently releasing for the our focus is desktop.
Mm-hmm.
So Portmaster is out in alpha for Linux and almost for Windows. Gate 17 will still need a few months until we release the alpha, and Stamp is available as well on its website. But the hub for this, for everything, is on saving.io, and from there you will find all the products.
Mm-hmm.
And Stamp is the domain stamp.community.
Okay. So both of these products are developed within your company, so it's a business. So you're trying to make money.
Mm-hmm.
What's your business model, and how is open source related to this? To what you do. So what part of what you do is open source, and
Mm-hmm.
how are you claiming profit? How are you going to claim the profit from this?
Yeah, I can explain the business model. I feel it being open source doesn't have too much to do with the business model.
Mm-hmm.
It's more the other way around.
Okay.
Like our business model is pretty simple. You download Portmaster for free, and it will, and then you can, like Portmaster runs locally on your computer, and only when you activate Gate 17, you use our servers, and for that you pay a monthly fee, and it's similar to it's gonna be priced as a premium VPN, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then you pay monthly and can use our network to route all your traffic through it.
So you can download Portmaster for free, use it for free, and if you want to access the Gate 17 network, you have to pay for that.
Yeah, we will hint you to users, hey, you can protect your data even more by activating Gate 17. So
Yeah.
that's kind of route we're going.
So to find a similarity in this, it's like Proton Mail has a free version of their email, which is very, very basic. It's just 500 megabytes of data, and there is
Mm-hmm.
not much in it. It's just basic email. But then if you pay, you get not just more storage, but you also get access to other features like maybe what do they have? They have this
They have VPN as well.
yeah, they have Bridge for Thunderbird or other mail clients and stuff like that that is not available for free. So it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like I assume that your business model is to have the free version that attracts mass market, and then the paid version that covers your bills.
Exactly, yeah. It's very similar in the sense that it's both freemium. The difference is that it's two separate products. So it's not one product which is a very basic version and you upgrade it to get access to all of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you have access to one full product and can get access to the second.
Okay. So this kind of business model is actually very popular. So for example, a software that I use, or actually quite a few pieces of software that I use, for example, Lightworks and DaVinci Resolve, they're both offering free version of their main core products, and they are usually more basic. And the paid versions are usually for studios and people who really need to make money off of the really powerful software. So for me, I
Mm-hmm.
usually use the free versions because they are powerful enough to edit in full HD. But they are basically just the same product but with less features. But what you are doing is you're actually selling two different products that are
Yeah.
still kind of interconnected on the technological level. But for people, it's two different products. So that's an interesting strategy to somehow survive. And it seems like to put it into perspective, there is a contrasting example with Adobe. So all of the Adobe products are subscription based, so you cannot even buy them
Mm-hmm.
outright, and you have to pay for them. So these other programs like Blackmagic Design with DaVinci Resolve and Fusion and Lightworks, they came out and offer their products for free, and many people are downloading them and are becoming internet popular because many content creators are using them. Because why would you pay for Adobe when you can get as powerful enough
Mm-hmm.
software as with Adobe with for free? And then this attracts obviously bigger brands and studios to pay for the studio or premium versions of their products. So is this something that you're hoping for? Is this the same thing that you think that is going to be successful?
Well, yeah, we're hoping definitely.
Mm-hmm.
We're still in our startup phase, so we are not making any money because Gate 17 isn't out yet.
Mm-hmm.
But we are hoping for a similar success, like downloading something for free. It's already something the user has to do. It's already something he has to, yeah, like it's work on his side, and giving him something for free as an introduction is cool, and hopefully he is delighted enough with the Podmaster that he then decides to support us and also his privacy by buying Gate 17 or subscribing to it.
So it seems like this business model must work somewhere because so many different companies are actually experimenting and implementing this business model. So assuming that it is successful for other companies, so I hope it will be successful for you as well.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks.
yeah. So my only worry is that okay, so when are they going to flip the switch? When are they going to stop offering their free product for free and turn into subscription based surveys and become evil or something like that? So are you going to change anything about this, or are you going to offer your free
um,
product for free forever?
it would be a tough call to commit. Also, I'd rather not say and then not break a promise.
Okay.
But from what it seems like, the resources, like what it costs us, the Portmaster doesn't cost us anything. It's just a download. We have a server, or even you can download it from GitHub, so we don't have costs there. And what really is expensive for us is having the network and having soon to be hundreds of servers. So yeah, let's just assume that. And that is something that the user has to, like, we cannot cover those costs for free. So that is why we're pretty clear from the beginning. but the Podmaster is something that runs locally, and it doesn't cost us a penny if a million users use it. But I know on the other hand, you can say, hey, what if the company decides, hey, we want to cash out, so now it's going to cost something. I'd say I think that is a good link to open source,
It is.
because in the end we are forcing ourselves to keep it free, because and that is a good thing, because I'm not confident enough that I can say, hey, when the money comes in, and I could become greedy, I could become unethical. But if we then decide to uh, like have users pay for it, then somebody can just fork our project and say, hey, we can do this and still give it for free.
I think this is a very good link to open source because
Mm-hmm.
one of the biggest justification or main argument against closed sourcing your development is that once you actually build an application or a program, it doesn't cost you anything no matter how many times it is downloaded. So for example, Microsoft is charging like $200 per each copy of Windows, but it doesn't cost them anything. And you said this correctly. What costs you money is maintenance of the network that you're building, but the product, and you have all the reason to charge however you think people are going to be willing to pay for that network.
Mm-hmm.
But people who justify open source, and this will be free software movement as well from folks like Richard Stallman, is that it doesn't the making of the copy is not costing you anything. So how can you justify charging people money for something that is abundant? It doesn't cost anything. So I
Mm-hmm.
think what you are doing here is that you're kind of like naturally um, doing what's actually more ethical from this standpoint. So when it comes to open source, and for people who just don't know, and I think that most people know, but open source means that the code of the program or the application is publicly available, and if it's licensed in some free software license, which there are many, it can even be copied by users or freely distributed, and the author of the original code cannot go after those people and say, hey, this is infringement of my intellectual property rights, because you're free to modify the program, copy it, and even sell it if somebody's going to be willing to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what open source means. This is an explanation for those who are listening and are not very familiar with this concept. And
Yeah, they
I
can even use it commercially, like the ones you copy.
I'm sorry.
Under some under certain licenses, the one who copies can also use it commercially, as you said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a very liberating movement because you are free to do with what you get whatever you want. So there are no restrictions. There are no other licenses that you need to acquire. So it's like imagine you take your Windows computer and you would be able to have the Windows for free, and you would be able to see the code and modify it and add your own features into it. So for most people, they would say, "Oh, I'm not a developer. I'm not a developer. I don't have any features that I would like to add." But there are plenty of developers who would take Windows and would modify it and make it better, but Microsoft
Mm-hmm.
doesn't want that because they want to have the monopoly on Windows. So that's how the current system works. The government protects these intellectual property monopolies so that there cannot be a competition of the services that the companies are providing. But what you are doing is actually kind of disrupting this old business model. So if you're able to talk about what is open source in your products, and is there something that isn't open source yet, and how is open sourcing your apps and programs working with your business?
Mm-hmm. The point you mentioned with like it doesn't cost anything to have copies, and I just wanted to point out that even if the software is free, it usually has to be iterated and developed on a regular basis. Like it's the technology is changing so fast that it's a requirement almost to keep developing on your software, because otherwise it gets old, and like in 2 years you're the old guy. So even though something is free, there is a cost, and that is the development cost. But I do like, just to put that scope, that perspective in, I do believe there are better solutions, and I agree with you that it would be cool if Windows would just open source Windows. Microsoft would open source Windows, but yeah.
Yeah.
And to your, you asked like what parts are open source with our business.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, it's, as you can imagine, there's a lot of tech involved. Like you have the client and the code for the client for Portmaster and also for Gate 17, which then encrypts the data. We have a network, and then we have servers who verify, did this user pay? And there's a lot of tech involved. And we decided that we wouldn't open source one particular, I'd say, cog in a machine. Like like it's specifically, it's the payment. We call it the ticketing system.
Mm-hmm.
So the user has to pay for the service, and then we have a process that verifies if a user has paid, and then gives access to the Gate 17 network. And that is something in the middle. The reasons for this decision is we didn't want to give like our whole infrastructure from the beginning. We want to be as open as possible, and I think as soon as we have established ourselves, I'd be happy if we even open source that, because there are a lot of beneficial goodies that come with it. Like, yeah, you force yourself to be ethical, and yeah, you don't have the possibility to do something closed or in the dark without others knowing.
So you're saying that, yeah, go ahead.
And and the second point is the security aspect of it,
Okay.
because the more people see the code, the secure it gets.
Yeah. So even you would agree, because there are many people in cryptography especially that say the more people see the code, the safer it is. But then you have companies like Apple who are saying, no, we are going for security by obscurity, which means we are never going to reveal our code. That's so fundamental to the security of our all of our products, and we are just going to develop that on our own, and no one is going to be able to look at what's in it and whether it is actually secure. So you actually are on the side that open sourcing security products is actually a necessity.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay.
It's funny how like Apple and other companies say security through obscurity is a thing, because there's no way of proving it. It's, and what we've seen with open source software, with many closed source software as well, like everything is hackable at some point. So there are a lot of people out there trying to hack things, and I think oftentimes it's a very good thing, because they're helpful, and then they report the bugs and the errors. But sometimes there are bad actors, and they, like the security through obscurity, when they hack Apple, they will never tell them. So Apple will never know that they are insecure. And the chance of them catching that hacker is so small. And when you, on the other hand, if it's open source, everybody can inspect the code, and it is a lot more likely that a second person who is a good actor will see it and report it, and then the bad actor will have no chance anymore.
So is this something that's actually happening in the real world, or is this just a theory?
You mean that companies are being hacked without them knowing?
That and that open source is actually proven to be more secure because more people are looking at the code. Like from your experience or from your knowledge.
Well, from my experience, I can tell you that um, yeah, companies being hacked is very common. It's like the bigger the player is, the harder it gets because they have good tech guys who know their shit. Um, but the thing with it cannot be proven per se because you cannot prove how secure the obscure product is. Like, of course, you can get somebody to review them and then they could get a good score or whatever. But it's like, hey, like having a football, or let's say having a sports event and somebody says, hey, I'm going to run 100 meters in under 8 seconds, but you aren't allowed to see him. Can you prove that it isn't true? No, because you're not allowed to inspect it. So, like,
That sounds like Soviet Russia.
yeah, yeah, probably so. But do you know what I mean? It's
I
not
do, yeah.
we are not able to compare these two approaches
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because one is in the dark. So
Yeah, that's a very good point. So, you are saying that one cog in your wheel is closed source, and that is because you're kind of afraid of maybe the competition of crushing your business because you're not established yet. So,
mhm.
would you be able to tell how much of your development is given away as open source, and how much of that one cog in the wheel is closed source, like in size or in the amount of development in code, but as well as in your time and energy that you need to put into it?
Mhm. That's a good question. I mean, like the cog that we will not open up yet is just as we are starting developing it, the payment system, the ticketing system. I'd expect that that is like 2 3 months max, and then it's just a bit maintenance here and there, and the other parts of our software suite is going to be constantly developed. And like if you want to hear a percentage, I'd say like 90%, 10%, maybe 80 20, but more likely in the long run that it would be 90 10.
Okay, so 90% open source and 10% closed source. So
Yeah.
when it comes to security, should people worry about those 10%?
Yes, to be honest.
Okay.
And I think that's also one of the reasons why, at least from my point of view, we should be open about that as well as soon as possible. Because it's essentially it verifies users that they can use the network, and it's also responsible for giving out encryption keys to then use for the Gate 17 network.
Mm-hmm.
So if something faulty, well, I mean, the cryptography is going to be open source,
Okay. That's a good
but the
thing.
system how it's implemented, um, that will be closed for now. But yeah, I mean, like, it's like asking, can a human work without a heart or without a liver? It needs to. You can only live if you function as a whole.
Okay.
But yeah, so you should always worry about it. But we hope that we can gain enough trust by open sourcing the rest of it,
So do you fear that
establish ourselves.
if you'd open source everything, even the remaining 10% with the implementation of cryptography, Would there be? Do you worry that there would be some company out there, maybe even a big one like Microsoft or whatever, Facebook, and they would take your open source code and implement it into their products with much larger audience and marketplace, and then you would be out of business?
Did you say that the well? Did you say that the cryptography was open or closed?
I
Because it's
said
going to be open.
I know
Okay.
cryptography is going to be open, but the implementation, the distribution of keys is going to be closed.
Okay. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I'm not worried about Facebook or Google because they, similar to the Libra coin from Facebook, they would take an idea and twist it and like proclaim or market it as it's the same. And Google or Facebook would never implement our software because they would lose out on so much power or data.
How would they lose the data though? Can you explain
Sorry?
that? Can you explain how they would lose data if they implemented your products? Or how are you going to hurt their business model if people are using your products? How is it going to hurt Facebook and Google?
Well, if people use our products, the collection of metadata becomes much harder. So, like it's with the ad blocker on in web browsers, like, or if you disable JavaScript, they cannot grasp who you are. They have no way of identifying you because it's like hundreds of or thousands of people flooding out through the same server, and there's no way of linking the activity together.
Mm-hmm.
It's like with Tor, it's in that regard, it's similar to Tor. The I think the NSA has kind of access to Tor because they have a lot of exit nodes themselves. So the more of the system you own, the more you can analyze it and make links between traffic and the user. But with us owning all of the servers ourselves as a business, nobody else has access to them. And I mean, in that thought process, I realized if Google did this, they could just hold the keys to all the servers themselves, and then they could say, "Hey, we ourselves are analyzing it, but we're not giving it away." So, yeah, I guess they could also use it, but I don't know where the anxiety comes from. It's more or less it's like why you don't go out naked in public is I want to keep my boxer shorts on. I don't know.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Um, well, I think from your perspective it does. I'm not in your shoes, so because I'm not
Mm-hmm.
developing, I'm creating videos, but as for me, because I'm preaching like, hey, give away your work, and I could say that I can give away my work, but the only thing that's my work is my voice.
Mm-hmm.
So I cannot claim what people can do with other people's content that's in my videos, which is most of it, because I'm using other people's content. So if people want to use my voice, they can, or like my script. They can definitely use me as a source if they find benefit in it. But so it's a bit different perspective from when we compare what I do and what you do, because what you do is 100% yours. But what I wanted to say is that the way NSA compromises Tor is not through owning exit nodes, because I think it is pretty sure it is quite certain that the NSA doesn't own majority of the exit nodes, and it's not possible to own exit nodes. Well,
Well,
kind of it is, but the way Tor mitigates against this is that it shuffles your exit nodes, and you never know which node is going to be exit or middle node or entry node. unless some relays are not exit nodes. But uh, the way NSA compromises Tor is through observing the whole internet. So they are tapping into the fiber optic cables. They go under the Atlantic, and they directly tap into the ISPs and internet exchange points where all the traffic is bundled together, and
Yeah.
they are analyzing packets. Most of the time, they are doing time correlation attacks. So they see a packet traveling at a certain point in time, at one point of the network, and exiting at a certain time at a different point of network, and they're trying to compare the packets and the timings. The way Tor mitigates this is that all packets are the same size, but there are workarounds against this as well. So it's Tor network is still the most anonymous network out there, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
It's still pretty solid. But you said that all your servers are going to be owned by your business, by your company. Isn't that a single point of failure?
Yes, it is. If I'm honest, the it has to do again, like, what is our long-term strategy or what is our midterm strategy, and we want to decentralize the power as well. So especially when it comes to the ticketing and the, we have to think a bit more about our strategy, like how it wouldn't be possible for us to um, use the keys to then investigate the traffic. So like there are concepts in cryptography where you have several keys distributed, and you can only unencrypt certain packets or certain data if a majority agrees. You can like decide, hey, 50% of the key holders have to agree that this is something we want to open, or 80%, or whatever you go with. Yeah. So that may be a strategy. I like, my gut feeling says, hey, that sounds cool. Like having a lot of keys distributed through the community, and then maybe there will be certain network traffic you want to unencrypt to then find a bad actor. But a lot of like the majority has to agree on that, and we cannot decide that ourselves. But it's just like conceptual. It's just a concept as of now,
Mm-hmm.
and we will have to figure that out on the go. It's kind of tough if you want to uh, be sure of all, yeah, like being safeguarded against all attacks that may happen. Yeah, I guess it's important being honest and saying, hey, there is still a single point of failure, but we will try to be as secure as possible, and we will also implement strategies that will mitigate this.
Okay, you will implement strategies, but you don't have them figured out as of right now.
Yeah, like I guess there are several strategies we could go for. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not the cryptography expert in the company, and this is the idea I pitched is one idea, and I guess it's also something we will have to figure out with users we later have, like what is the best solution, because we're not Einstein, so we'll have to figure out things out with our users as well.
Okay. Do you have any users at this moment, or there's no one?
Um, like in theory, we are out with Stamp and Portmaster in alpha.
Okay.
So far, we haven't pushed our product at all, mainly because Gate 17 is our cash cow. So we can have 1 million users for Portmaster, but if nobody can pay us, then we'll go bankrupt. And we have limited resources, so we first want to push Gate 7 as a we first want to release Gate 17, and then we will be more active in getting users and iterating the product.
Okay, so I'm always interested what developers think on the ideological level about open source development and free software. So where do you stand ideologically? Like, what do you believe in when it comes to open source? Do you think it is the future, or do you think that, like Richard Stallman, that proprietary software should not exist?
Do you think, is it the future? I'd say ideologically, I'd love it to be the future. But as I see our world, I'm a bit more pessimistic, or the pessimists say they're realistic.
Okay.
That many companies will never bow to this. They will always fear losing out on money. And I guess a lot of them would as well. I guess a lot of people, a lot of companies would not manage being an open source company because you have to rethink your business model. Like now, all of a sudden, you have this cool application, and now everybody can download it for free, and you charge $20 for it. And now that isn't happening anymore. So what do you do? Like, do you jump on the subscription train? It's, I guess, yeah. But ideologically, I, I also dream of a world where a lot more is open source than it is right now. Just since the two factors is like I can trust that company a lot more, and it's also going to be a lot secure.
Well, I think I have to jump into this with what I'm good at, and that is people often forget the very important dynamic when it comes to open source versus closed source. So companies that are releasing their software as proprietary don't just enjoy the secrecy of their work, they also enjoy the exclusive monopoly of what they do. So when Apple releases, or not releases, when Apple develops a new application or an improvement on a program or something like that, or let's say the biggest example I think is the Amazon like click to buy or one click to buy or something like that, and they had a patent on this, so other retailers and online retailers couldn't use that technology. So it's not just that Amazon had secretly developed something and they don't want to release it. Other people could easily code it, but they were not allowed to code it because the government of the United States was protecting Amazon's position on this, and it would punish other companies and other developers if they tried to do something similar. So this is the problem. Sorry?
Isn't that more the issue of intellectual property and not so much of open source?
Well,
Because I'm furious about that as well. It's so bizarre. It's awful.
open source is intellectual property. So this is, well, intellectual property is a very strange concept, and we usually lump together copyright and patents and trademarks and trade secrets all together, while they are all different and they were created for different purposes. Patents were mostly created because they needed to incentivize development of drugs and good inventions. But right now, it is so heavily lobbied and propped up by big corporations and publishers that it's because Microsoft or Facebook develops something, or sometimes they even take something that was previously open, they take that open code, add something to it, and make it closed, and now you are not able to do that. Even if you could perfectly do it without even looking at their code, you could program something like that yourself. You're not allowed to, because that's how the intellectual property works in legal terms. And you don't necessarily have to know this as a developer, but at some point, you might face an outrageous patent case or intellectual property case, court case, I mean, where you would have to defend what you are doing, and the company would have millions and millions of dollars to crush you. So this is the point of intellectual property. It's actually intellectual property monopoly. It's not a right; it's a monopoly. So that only the original creators, the authors, are able to benefit from their work, and no one else is able to compete with them. So it's not just that the code is secret or it's not secret or something like that. So this is a very important dynamic that many people don't actually realize. They only talk about something being shown or not shown. So when it comes to what you do, and your stance that you would like it to be, you would like the world to be open source, and whether that is the future. There are many companies that are trying to be open source and make money. So, for example, Purism, that makes Librem computers, and Librem laptops, and Librem phone is going to come out hopefully this year. System 76 is making Linux computers. So they're selling hardware, and they're trying to make money off of selling hardware and off of offering customer support, which is excellent. You're free to make money. But they are releasing their apps. Like Librem has a bunch of apps. Purism has a bunch of apps, and System 76 is developing Pop OS, which is a free version of Linux based off Ubuntu. So their software products are completely free and open source, or at least open source, and they're released for free to users and for anyone else to download and used on their machines. But if somebody wants to go to their company and buy their products, that's how the companies make money. They can buy their computers. They can buy, and with those computers they buy their customer support and technical support. So this is how these companies are trying to figure out how to make money. And their competition is fair because they are not enjoying monopolies. They have to compete with each other and with everyone else. But as soon as you introduce intellectual property monopolies, there is no competition because nobody can compete with Google or Facebook or Microsoft when they have the government punishing all the other competitors out there who would like to make the same products even without looking at their code, but they are not allowed to because of how intellectual property works. So you said that open sourcing is not related to this, and it is, because if you have open source or free software, it's an all-encompassing license. So that means if everything was free software or open source software, you wouldn't have these companies having those monopolies punishing companies or businesses that are like yours, startups or small businesses. It wouldn't be the case, but right now it is the case. Go ahead.
Your take is more that if we open source everything, then intellectual property isn't relevant anymore, because as I understood it, you said the intellectual property topic or issue is that you can create monopolies with patents and stuff, but if you just force everybody to be open source, then the competition will naturally flow out of that, and the IP issues we have nowadays wouldn't matter anymore. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm not necessarily saying that we need to abolish intellectual property laws altogether, but I'm really saying that, do we need a patent to be valid for 20 years? Patent is a monopoly, and it's not just that. You file a patent for something that you use. You also file a patent for something that's similar to what you use, and you're never going to develop it yourself. But you want to prevent other companies from developing even something similar. So this is called patent trolling. So you file patents that are as broad as possible in legal terms, so that you actually use artificial barriers to the market imposed by the government with by the request of the corporation to limit the competition, right?
Hmm.
So this is the fundamental issue. So I'm not saying there should be no protection. There should be some protection that incentivize innovation and research and development. But right now we have intellectual property monopolies at such a level that they stifle competition. And for the past like 10 years, all smartphones look completely the same. Computers and laptops have not really developed much beyond shrinking the bezels, and that's pretty much it. You know,
Do you feel that is due to the patent mess that we have?
yeah.
Okay, interesting. Because I
Well,
realized that as well, that it's like handies, mobile phones, they don't have any innovation at all the last couple of years, but it's an interesting thought.
yeah. I don't really see that much innovation over there. Not just the past 10 years, but the past 20 years. Like smartphone is like the biggest innovation in the past 20 years. Like really, like we are supposed to. Well, so we were using 10 fingers, and we are down to using 2 fingers, and that's called an innovation.
Well,
Like,
that's a very, like, I'd say harsh view on smartphones and what kind of innovation it brought us as a society, but
yeah, I think the competition needs to be there for innovation to really thrive, because
Mhm.
like it goes into all the backdoor, sorry, the closed door dealings, and agreements between vendors and manufacturers, and they're like between Intel and Microsoft and everyone else, and Asus, Samsung, whoever else,
Mhm.
Lenovo, and they're saying, yeah, so you use our product, but you're not going to use theirs, and this is all ours. And so it's just, so it's not just a right, it's a whole bunch of restrictions for everyone else. That's what makes it so unfair. So I feel like the patent law needs to be shrink down to like a year. Like you can file a patent for something for a year or 2 years at max, and then you would have you can only file a patent for something that you are going to develop, and if you're not going to develop it, then it's not yours. I know, and the same.
Like
Sorry.
from my point of view, 2 years is a bit extreme. Like I totally get that 20 years is just, yeah, crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like 20 years ago, the internet wasn't really here. So where should somebody, like, it has to be faster, but we've been doing this almost like I've been at Safing for 1.5 years full time,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes time to develop these things. And I'd say 5 years would be fair. Just, yeah, I don't know. 2 years is a bit harsh, I guess.
It does take time, but you have to realize that you are operating in an environment where there is a very limited public domain. So imagine if that for the past 20 years we've had this law that patents would only exist for 2 years. So you would be able to use the technology that has been developed and was very good for the past 20 years, and you would be able to build on top of that. This is the argument of Bill Ottman from Minds.com, and obviously, you know, these arguments are not perfect, so there needs to be a balance of what is and isn't good. But right now, that the scale is shifted in favor of big corporations and
Mhm.
the monopoly protections. So my question for you is: did you have any, as a business, did you have any problem in your business or maybe in your past businesses that you worked with intellectual property? Did you actually had any patents or restrictions that you needed to uh, restrict yourself against? Like, oh, we are not allowed to do that because there is a patent on there, or maybe did you have a lawsuit or something like that because of intellectual property?
Mhm. Yeah, it's a good question with a short answer, I guess. We didn't experience it so far,
Mm-hmm.
but who knows what the future holds. And I think we filed the patent in our country, just that we can show that we, like, patents are also very complex in the sense that you need a patent for every country.
Mm-hmm.
So if Amazon wants to patent this button, they will have like they have surely 200 patents over 200 countries.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's true.
so it's just like a safeguarding that we can show that we did that we do have a patent and that we are safe. So nobody else can come to us and say, "Hey, that's mine." Um, but we didn't have any issues or lawsuits or yeah. The most thing that it's like we apply for funds from the government as well, and oftentimes you have to describe your IP strategy, and then it's always like, what should we write in there? Because we're not big fans of the whole IP thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
but
this is another aspect of intellectual property, that you are working on something and then someone else comes in and claims your work.
yeah,
So so that's totally ridiculous. Like it's not working for the common man. It's not working for the original authors. It's only benefiting
yeah,
corporations who are seeking monopoly, which is, record
it's
labels.
totally
Yeah.
it's totally ridiculous. And even though I'd love to live in the world where patents only are valid for 2 years, I think it's only realistic to gradually move towards that.
Mm-hmm.
Like even reducing it from 20 years to 10 years, people and businesses in general, we don't like change. It's always uh, everything that we are used to seems to be the best option because we're used to it.
Okay.
So, so like, I don't think a radical shift would work.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would have to be gradual.
So how do other developers that you worked with or met with feel about open source?
Uh, I guess many of them appreciate it. Um, they do understand that it's more secure, and like as a developer, you rely so much on open source toolkits as well. Like you have a lot of libraries which are open source. So like I work with Ruby on Rails, and there is this thing called a gem, which is in the end it's a library where you import it into your project. And as an example, there's a gem which definitely does all the work with user management, like signing up, sending an email, hashing the password, and all that stuff. And that is just a library I pull into my project, and I'm good to go. And I don't have to I don't have to reinvent the wheel because that is such a common thing
Mm-hmm.
that there's an open source library for it. So we as developers, we use open source, we appreciate open source, but then again, it's kind of a paradox because we are also very used to writing closed source for our companies we work at.
So you're taking but not contributing.
Yeah, a lot of people are
Yeah.
like all the years I've been working with companies, I haven't contributed too much in the open. I haven't contributed at all on GitHub. Like where I'd say I did contribute was on Stack Overflow. That's like a knowledge base, and it was fun. So that is like where my contribution went. And now, of course, with our company, we contribute as well. But it is very common just to be a passive actor, like, or not an actor at all, like just consume. And like our society is consumerism, so it doesn't surprise me too much.
Yeah. So do you think that no, well, we talked about open source makes technology more secure. So let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about AI and then, the AI, the kind of AI that everybody fears, that would take over the world, that would be so powerful, there would be fake news everywhere, and nobody could trust anything. There would be no truth, and there will be like a takeover of robots. So Elon Musk had an idea to kind of, in his words, democratize artificial intelligence and the power of
Mm-hmm.
AI, which, in my opinion, is a great idea. But then with the project called OpenAI, they actually closed source the AI development because they unilaterally decided they are not going to do it anymore, quoting fear of what it would do to people, or how bad actors could use that AI. To me, that's very paradoxical because the whole point of OpenAI was to make sure that AI power is democratized enough so that no single player can actually override the will of other people who own AI or wouldn't own
So
AI that is so powerful. So what do you?
so
Yeah,
there is a company called OpenAI which closed sourced their AI.
I think it's like it's a non-profit or something like that.
Yeah, but it's still very, yeah, bizarre. It's a paradox.
It's very strange. I think Tesla open sourced some of their patents, which is great. It's a step in the right direction, but it's not all the way there.
Yeah.
Um, so what do you think from your perspective? Do you think that artificial intelligence should be open source or should it be entirely closed source, developed only by the best of the best?
Well, first of all, I'd like to disclaim I'm not an AI expert, but I'm very happy to share my view as well. Um, the like the anxiety or the fear of having a bad actor abusing the AI is very valid. But the thing is, who can assure you that the one who controls it isn't a bad actor? And that is like how governments work as well. Like you can always have fear about a bad actor, and you shouldn't give the government enough power that a bad actor can come and abuse it. So I don't agree with their decision to close source it. It's like very bizarre because hey, one of those guys could be a bad actor, or could sell it to another guy who then distributes it on the darknet, and uh, yeah, like that's just irrational because you will be exposed to a bad actor sooner or later anyway. So why not open source it and let people adapt it and help that it's not easily abused? Like, yeah, it's it's a complicated topic because when it's open source, you can then inspect the artificial intelligence and then also like analyze it how you can detect that the AI did something. So you can then develop countermeasures, but then it's like the AI wars, cat and mouse game, I guess.
So is it actually easier to develop countermeasures when the AI is open as opposed to being closed? Or does it not make any difference?
Well, I do feel it would be easier. It could also, like, let's have an AI that generates fake people, photos of like this person isn't real life. There is already an AI that does this.
Yeah.
So I think you can like expose it from both ends. Like on the one end, you can inspect the AI and see its patterns, and then have a tool that recognizes these patterns, and then they can detect, hey, this is AI generated. And on the other hand, what if it's open source and somebody comes up with a cool idea to watermark the image in a way that only like that you can generate a fake person, but only in a way that it is automatically detectable. Like there's this crazy thing going on with printers where secret agencies they print the white paper with a shade of, I think it's a shade of yellow, which the human eye doesn't see. So they can scan a lot of metadata onto the paper without you even realizing.
Hmm.
And somebody could implement something like that into the AI, so it is easily exposable. Like if a picture goes viral and like some president, somebody would say, "Hey, Angela Merkel, she did say this because there's a video and whatever," and then somebody else would come and say, "Hey, there's this watermark that proves it is an AI." So I don't know. It's it's a complex topic.
Okay, so you don't share the fears that they are not releasing the AI because they are so afraid that someone else would abuse it, so they'd rather keep it secret. You don't share that fear.
I do share the fear of bad actors abusing it because that is a very realistic thing that will happen at some point. But the question is, do you want a bad actor to be on the close, like in the dark, or do you want it to be in the open? It's it doesn't make sense to me that they would close source it.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either. It's a very strange decision, and from my perspective, I would say that the more people have AI, the harder it is for one particular subject to claim too much power over the rest. And of course, there will be abuse and there will be harm from the AI. But you know, I kind of feel like the fear mongering towards AI becoming self conscious or some super general AI or some kind of singularity will take over humanity. I don't think that we have to fear that, at least in the near future, as much as we should fear, you know, unknown actors or some um, secret development of AI that we don't have access to and we don't
Mm-hmm.
see. Nobody sees how Google search engine, which is also an AI on its own, basically, or the YouTube algorithm, how our Facebook algorithm. If we saw how that work, how all of these algorithms work, we would be able to make much more informed decisions about whether we actually want to use and support those social media and internet services. So
Yeah.
the fact that they are all also secretive and clandestine about their development makes it that much more um, concerning to me because we only hear stories like, oh, Facebook did an experiment with the news feed and it manipulated emotions of people, but we don't see the code. So are they still doing it? How much are they doing it? How much are they manipulating news feeds and what people see so that they are more enraged or some sort of negative emotions are encouraged so that people engage on the platform more,
Mm-hmm.
or all the subliminal advertising techniques that are used to manipulate people into thinking about brands more or thinking about spending money more, or just flat out click on the ads. All if people were able to see the code, like most people would not understand the code, but they would understand what people about that understand the code are talking about. Like you would be able to inspect the code, and you would be so outraged about it that you would write an article or you would inform your friends or family, and they would be able to make an informed decision because they know you and they trust you. But right now,
Mm-hmm.
we only trust the elitist developers who are working on this behind closed door, and nobody knows what's going on. I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm just saying the structure that is there, the structure that's only there because um, they're so hungry for making more and more profit for their shareholders that they are willing to go such great lengths. They're endangering the whole society. And like if we look at the United States, many social media are enraging the population, and they are creating these social media bubbles and filter bubbles that are separating people. And America used to be a place where conservatives and liberals used to have discussions all the time, and right now it's just like you can't get them sit behind the same table. So I
Yeah,
think social,
it
yeah,
pushes the extremes. Yeah,
exactly. So
and
yeah,
yeah, I do like that point a lot. It has a lot to do with holding companies accountable. And Facebook is an example. They have so much power. And of course, Saki always is promising, oh, we'll do this better. Oh, but that's just bullshit. And they are not and cannot be accountable as it is working just now, because who controls the algorithm and who controls the search algorithm of Google? It's also like what's his name, the CEO of Google.
Right now, it's Sundar Pichai.
Yeah, exactly. He was in front of Congress as well, and he was like, "Oh no, we don't influence it at all. It's all like unbiased and stuff." But hey, then show the code.
Yeah.
Then you can prove it. It's having such a great impact, and we're just trusting these entities to do the right thing. And I feel every human is flawed, and hence it needs to have like accountability, and somebody can point out a flaw in that regard, and maybe somebody forgot to include something, or like we thrive when we can see each other and tell each other what we're doing wrong. And now it's just like, hey, we are this monopoly and we are doing everything right because we are so big. It's
Yeah, that's
yeah,
such a great point, because especially when you said the accountability and bias, because it's impossible to create a program unbiased. There's always
yeah,
going to be some bias, and the bias comes from the database, and the database is biased itself. Um, it's your how can you escape a bias? Like it's not possible. It's always going to be, you know, the algorithm or the AI is going to learn from something, and if you're trying to whatever you're trying to do, you are always going to expose it to something more than than to something else. So you would it's like it's so it's such a preposterous statement to say that Google's algorithm or Facebook's algorithm are totally unbiased. They're definitely biased, and we don't even know how they're biased. So open sourcing
mhm,
their technology would actually made it possible for us to see, okay, so this is the bias, so we know how it works. But nobody knows how it works, and maybe not even Google know how it works, because so much of their technologies is maybe developed by the AI itself. We don't know that. Everything is developed behind closed door, and what's giving me what concerns me the most.
yeah. It is something impossible to have like a global company and then claim you're unbiased, because people are so different. All these cultures, all these worldviews. It's like the question isn't are you biased or not. It's like in which direction are you biased, and then
Exactly.
you can correct it. Yeah, and you can try to find the middle ground. And yeah, that won't happen if it's closed. That's the sad truth.
That was very well said. It's not the question is not whether you're biased, but in what direction you're biased.
Mhm.
That's the fundamental truth. I like that. I need to remember that.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to say? Where can people find you or follow you and your company or your products?
Yeah. Like, want to say just to wrap it up or to have new topics? Like,
I think we kind of finished.
okay.
I that's what I see. But if you have more to say, you are free to say whatever you want.
Yeah. I think when we talk about open source, um, or generally businesses, just a thought of mine I wanted to share is whenever you see a company, always ask what is their business model. And that is, for me, that is a very critical point
Oh,
when
okay.
I'm
Yeah.
researching companies. Just that I know, hey, they can be nice and ethical now, but if they don't have a business model, at some point they will have to make money. and under pressure, it will happen that some of them will sell out. So yeah, that's just something I wanted to share. And even with open source companies,
That is a good
like
point.
yeah, but yeah. Otherwise, I feel we discussed a lot and it's fun and like I'll definitely send the links so they are in the description. But our website, our company website is safing with an f.io. And my Twitter handle is Dave GSON. And yeah, it will be fun to talk about these things. Also in Reddit, I'll be sure to stick around and answer questions or discuss topics even more.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a lovely talk, and I thank you very much for your input. I think it was very beneficial, and we all learned something today.
Yes.
Thanks to what you talked about, and especially your views as a developer, since I can now justify my preaching a little bit more.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Kate. It was
Yep.
yet again a pleasure.
Yep. Thank you.
Cheers, bye.
Bye.